when people bring more attention to their blood sugars, there can be a tendency to develop certain aversions to numbers that are outside of the normal parameters. And while we want to attend to and treat blood sugar levels when they're outside the normal range, it's important to also bring awareness to the sensations in your body, the emotional state, the thoughts present when someone notices that their numbers are out of range and they're in the midst of treating that number. In yoga, we use the mental model of the gunas to inform our perception of what forces are driving our responses. So, for instance, tamas is the power of inertia, stability, and resistance. Rajas is the power of externalization, of movement, of acquiring and achieving. Sattva is the absence of tamas and rajas, and it's akin to balance, to openness and spaciousness. And often when we're trying to improve our A1C and blood sugar control with type 1 diabetes, rajas and tamas will predominate, as they do with a lot of things. So rajas is like our power of taking action, but when it's in excess, it can lead to hypervigilance. And in type 1 diabetes, we call this rage bolusing. When you notice your blood sugar going in a certain direction and you start to not only correct, but overcorrect. Or like with hypoglycemia, another example of this would be overcorrecting by overeating to treat the hypoglycemia. How tamas shows up is it blocks or blinds our perception and inhibits us from seeing clearly and understanding how we can in turn take responsibility for our actions. It can keep us locked into repeating the same patterns and behaviors over and over and over again with our type 1 diabetes management. And also emotions like guilt, overwhelm, frustration, they're heavy. They really follow us, and it can be really hard to break free of it and to allow that freedom to support the way that we're showing up for our type 1 diabetes management, because those negative emotions are so heavy and so detrimental, they can be worse than having a high blood sugar for a couple hours. It's that kind of stuff that carries with us in the way that we see ourselves, value ourselves in relationship to our type 1 diabetes. So if we can move that out of the way and start to bring more sattva, more space, more openness, more acceptance, patience, and calm to the treatment, even when our blood sugars are high and low, it's really going to make the difference. And how does it make a difference? Well, it's in the feeling that's present. So to strive for perfection with type 1 diabetes, it's a myth. We should aim instead for bringing more sattva, more clear space, more acceptance, more patience into the act of type 1 diabetes management. This will allow us not only to improve blood sugar control, but to help us lower the stress that's associated with trying to stay in control all the time and the expectation of having a fully functioning pancreas, which we don't have. So I want to hear from you. Leave a comment. Let me know what your perception about blood sugar ranges with type 1 diabetes have been up into this point, and how can this information help support you and your type 1 diabetes management in the future.